Hello, good afternoon. I locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship, and inspirational stories. And on today's show, I am broadcasting for the Women's Hour for And Digital with my guests, Rakhee Paul and Stella Wang. Welcome to the show. Welcome to you both.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Hello.
Great to be here.
It's great to have you both. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Is this your first time on live radio?
Yes.
Oh, there's a first time for everything. Don't worry, it's going to be fine, and I'm really looking forward to enjoying this hour with you as part of and for us to have a discussion, a really authentic conversation. So, where are you both calling in from today?
I'm in Brixton, London.
And I'm near St Albans.
And you're in St Albans. So we've got London and just outside of London. Thank you very much. It was a bit quiet there because my mic was far away, but my technician has fixed it. So we are, thank you very much. We are now in sync. So yeah, it's just great to have you both here. Would you both like to introduce yourself and your roles at And for me? Starting with Rakhee.
Sure. So I am a squad lead at And Digital. It feels like it doesn't really mean very much to a lot of people. So for context, I have a product background. So I go in and look at how things are shaped and looking at strategies and product roadmaps and looking at how we deliver things for our clients. And on the other side of the and side of it as well, I have a squad of 14 people that I look after as well.
Thank you, Rakhee. And Stella?
Yeah, I'm a UI and UX designer from And Digital, and you could also call that experience designer. So what I normally do is look after how a software interact with its users, find out what their pain point is, and trying to make the journey as easy and delightful for them as possible. And then I will hand over, talk to a bunch of developers, which we have loads in And, to figure out how can we make this actually happen. So yeah, I have a graphic design background. So probably 10 years ago, you will find me designing some magazine pages layout, but now everything just move onto the screen and you can actually do things with it rather than just read it. So
you can do things tangibly.
Exactly.
You both have very, very responsible roles, and I presume very busy at the moment, especially during the changes and the the balance between working from home and in the office and everything else. I think I just really like to start with how you're both finding things with the the work-life balance of having to juggle between working at home and in the office, and how those roles may have changed and developed as a result of the COVID climate. Either of you?
We're not used to it. You're not assigning us.
Yeah, just how you feel really about, you was working in the office and everything was sort of very structured, and you was used to things being done in a particular way, and you'd go to work, you'd probably take the same route to work every day, you'd probably lunch around the same time and meet the same kind of people, and then suddenly things have changed a lot for us because we've had the COVID pandemic, and of course we've had to really adjust and work from home and do things very differently. So it'll be really interesting to just hear about just a little bit about your own unique way of how things may have changed within your roles and how you do things every day.
I guess I don't want to start. For me, the one significant thing I've noticed changed is the amount of babies that I have exposed to. I'm not yet have a baby myself, but I start to run into so many babies in meetings. And this has weirdly become me from a personal perspective, encouragement of not afraid of the character of a mom anymore, because I've been scared of it for years. I think there's so much can do, and the society asking so much from women. You need to have a job, and the standard for a good mom is so high, and your kids always want your attention. What can one woman do all of that? And then in the COVID, all my meetings, I just saw people literally doing that in front of my eyes. And Rakhee, like I run into Rakhee in meetings with her kids there, and then it's actually bring down the scary bit for me by in that environment seeing all these women work from home with their kids. I think I heard kids from some of my male colleagues' background, but I see kids with my female colleagues on the call.
It's so true. It has completely changed the way we do everything, hasn't it? Like, when you're on Zoom and pets are going past and children are in the background, and you're kind of having to say, I do it, oh, shh, be quiet, and I'm on a work call, and you just praying that they don't say anything too loud or noisy because you're doing something very, very serious. But actually, it just can't be helped. And I think it's wonderful, and it's so pleasing to hear that you've been able to embrace that for yourself, Stella, and it's made you think about the differences that it's going to make for your future. And has that been the same for you as well, Rakhee?
Yes, I think it's definitely, you have no other choice when you have kids and you've been working from home in the pandemic. There's no other choice, especially if you've got young children. If they're on your screen, they're on your screen. You have to suck it up and wing it on a daily basis. So I've got two children who are now 5 and 3. When actually Stella and I joined band at the same time last March, and I think we were in the office for all of a week before lockdown happened, and it was like everyone go home. So that was definitely an adjusting period. Like you said, you had your routine of being in the office. You had the mindset of, I'm going to be here 5 days a week. I know my route in, all great. And for me, I was like, right, okay, I know I'm going in early. I'm going to try leave early. My husband was going to drop the kids off to nursery and school, and I could do pickup. And we had that all organized and managed. Come lockdown, the kids were at home because nursery's closed. We were in the process of actually moving our children's nursery to another nursery, which had a delayed start date because of the pandemic. So it meant that actually our children were home from March until September, which is quite a long time. And considering, like I said, Stella and I had only just joined and from my perspective, it was like, well, okay, joined a new job, need to try and prove myself, and also I want to put in the effort. I want to do what I can do really well because I know I can do it, but also I don't want to just be the iPad mum or just chuck my kids in front of the telly, and I want to give them the attention that I feel like they need, considering at that time they were 3 and 1, which is a very young age. They weren't old enough to just be left in a room to play with your toys on your own. There's always bits and bobs everywhere that you're continuously worrying about. So it was hard, and without being able to form bubbles or anything like that. A lot of our close family who we would have relied on were high risk, so actually we didn't want to expose them to anything, and we were trying to just do our bit. But while we both had full-time jobs and 2 young children at home, we just had to go with it. And yeah, a lot of the times the kids were on the calls, but you can just go on with it.
Would you say that it possibly could have been sort of way overdue, the way that unconventionally, we've all had to sort of adjust and make changes? Would you say that some of these changes, though, are, without even realizing it, have been way overdue, especially the way in some of the ways that it has not inhibited us, but really benefited us as working women or working mums, and Stella was able to see some confidence in herself about what the future looks like for yourself. You even though the children are young and they was at home, you were still able to maybe do some of the things with them that you maybe wasn't able to do before. So do you think that some of the kind of benefits as a result really of the work, do you think it's sort of been way overdue perhaps?
To
do.
me, I found that it's a shift of paradigm for me with this COVID change, because it's also in end, we're a company that are great at being friendly to working parents, and I constantly heard talks about the support we can get from like working parents. And in scenario like this, we have the culture of people just don't need to worry about how their other colleague gonna see about them if there is a little one, because everyone has been welcome. And that, to me, as a person who have no kids but thinking this might be my possible future, is the biggest confident booster, because I knew in here we value people, and then the next generation, that's the hope. And family, sometimes it could be why we're working, why we're putting in the hard work, and not having that relationship reversed, and actually spend more time. Like I never have this much time spending with somebody else's kid, and I don't learn it from firsthand, and I enjoyed it. I thought I'm gonna be annoyed by the noise, but actually when it happened, I'm just like, oh, this is cute.
This is more fun than I realized. Yeah, honestly, it brings about so many, as much as it has been challenging. It just gives us an opportunity to realize so many things. And I know as a mum, and I've got a 8-year-old, that some of the time that I spent with him, and the things that he'd kind of say, and I think, wow, you've really grown up, and I didn't kind of realize it, because we're just so busy all the time. So yeah, I think, thank you so much for sharing that with me, and I'm really glad that we're all of us as mums and as women, we're sort of on the same page. And it'll be really good to just find out a little bit more about sort of like career progression for you both, in terms of your individual backstories, where you are now in terms of squad leadership and UX leadership and everything else, and how you found career progression, as women of color, and also within in tech, in the tech industry, um, how you found your actual journey. Is this something that you always wanted to do, and do you feel that you had the right support and the right access and opportunities to get there? So how was what was the journey like for you into your career within the tech industry?
I think for me, coming into just starting my career, it's always been so male dominated. So you come in and you feel we feel really anxious just coming into an environment anyway where it's like that, where you're like, do people think I'm just emotional? Do people think that, oh, she's a woman and that's why she cares too much or tries too hard? And there's all these labels that you feel like just get added to you because that's how you approach things. And it's because you're a woman, and it gets brushed aside. And it took quite a long time to learn that actually those are my strengths. Yes, I am emotional. I can relate to people. I'm human, and I'm easy to talk to, and hopefully that makes me a bit more approachable. That's not saying men aren't like that, but actually, how do I utilize those sort of things that are natural to me to my advantage and push that forward? I think once I realized that, I just started doing it, and it's worked for me along the way. Throughout the kind of career progression, it's been held against me. You can't progress, you can't line manage because you're too friendly with your team. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Surely that's a good thing. Why can I not line manage because I'm too friendly with my team, because I get on with them and have a good relationship with them? Surely that would make things easier. I got quite a lot of pushback when I was pregnant, and it was really hard to actually say, is it because I'm pregnant that you don't want to give me a promotion? And it happened not once, it happened 5 times that I didn't get another role. And all of those times, as I became heavily pregnant kind of as time went on. And actually it was over the 2 pregnancies. And by the end of it, I actually went to our head of HR, and I was like, I'd actually really appreciate some steps that I can work towards to help me get this promotion, because the only bit of feedback I got was that I was too experienced in the job I was doing to get promoted, which did not make sense. And lo and behold, the day I went on maternity leave, it was congratulations, she's been promoted. And that turned around within my last week. And it was very bizarre. I was like, I never want to hold up a pregnancy card or anything like that. But actually, if I didn't go and stand my ground, would that have happened? Because my job didn't change. I was doing exactly the same job. Whether that's discrimination, whether that's not, whether that's unconscious bias, I don't know. But there must be a combination of these things, and which led to me actually getting the promotion and helped me work my way up thereafter.
Absolutely. It's you know, sometimes it's that kind of invisible thing, isn't it? People aren't really saying it, but it's there. We can feel it. The unconscious bias, the discrimination. It's something that's just so subtly in the background, but yet we feel and as though we can't exactly say what it is, because it hasn't been plainly put out there that actually, we've kind of seen you're pregnant and we don't feel that you could, do this role, when in fact, you're holding somebody back from access, from opportunity, from the position that they deserve. And these things happen in places of work all too often. So that's why it's really important, for us to share our stories, to inspire other people, and to also just give really good context about, why these things happen, and of course they shouldn't happen within the workplace, and why things that organizations couldn't be doing to make sure that they don't happen as well. I think that's really important. So how, for yourself, was there anything that you felt that you was able to do, like, as a result of that helped you get through that moment? Was there any sort of contingencies that you used, or feedback that you gave the organization, or anything that was helpful to you, or any advice that you received?
I definitely now give people advice who are pregnant and who feel like, actually, if they personally feel like they are being discriminated because of that, to go out and push it and challenge it. And something that I try and stick by is, the worst that you're going to get is a no. And actually, that doesn't really affect you. You can ask for steps to work towards it, and you've got something off the back of it. And people know that you are not there to be pushed aside. You have got a voice, and you're going to stand up for what you believe in and what you think, which I think is so important. And what people often forget, and again, probably not meaning to, is that usually, majority of women that I know who have careers and want to kind of keep their careers going, and also want a family, they are making that active decision to put their career on hold to prioritize a family. And then thereafter, there is that constant guilt trip both ways that I'm still waiting for that to sort of ease out, to say, do I put more effort into my family? Do I put more effort into work? And actually, what is that balance that works for me and my family? And how do I maintain it? And that's, I think, is the biggest challenge. But what I feel like employers haven't really understood is that people are actively making that decision, and it is hard. It's a really hard decision, and it's also really hard to see your peers progress while you're on maternity leave, because you're sitting there thinking, I'm keeping another human alive and I'm actually doing a pretty good job of it. Therefore, I am developing a whole load of skills that you do not have just because you're ticking along doing your day job. Where is the acknowledgement on that?
That I love it. Honestly, just everything that you just said, it just gave me goosebumps, because like you said, I'm learning a new skill set, right? And actually, when I come back and I'm doing both jobs, which is the one at home and the one at work, I'm working very, 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 very hard.
Yeah.
And you couldn't actually appreciate how tough that really is. So yeah, you couldn't have articulated it any better, honestly. I'm sure there's so many parents right now just listening to this and saying, I know exactly how you feel. And Stella, for yourself, regarding your career progression as a woman, um how do you feel that things have gone for you in terms of your own development in the world of tech, and in terms of your support and you being able to progress and have access and opportunity? I know that you and I spoke about some things, and you wanted to discuss about being an Asian woman and some of your own experiences. So would you like to share that with us, please? That would be great.
Yes, absolutely. I am gonna start from that story I wanted to tell you right away after I echo back to what you and Rakhee just discussed. So me and Rakhee joined the company together. And on that day when I joined, actually together with us among 20 people, there is one woman that's 6 months pregnant. So to me, is as an individual who read countless articles and heard stories from my friends of how they've been discriminated to when they're pregnant. When I saw this pregnant woman onboarding together with me, I'm like, wow, this is something very special, very new. And Rakhee was the first one. I don't know anyone. She just went there and very loudly tell her, congratulations. So then everybody started to congratulate her. And at that moment, it sets a positive tone on this. And that's moment as a woman, when I see all this happen in front of my eyes, that's faith. And as Rakhee said, I'm looking after another human to keep them alive. So when it comes to people skills, this is solid people skills. This is something we need more in the work environment. How my experience is, I have something I can definitely resonate with what Rakhee and you discussed before. If to articulate that feeling to be more precise, quote my chancellor of my uni. So a side note, his name is Grayson Perry. He's a great artist. He liked to wear dress on important occasions. I don't know what's the correct English term nowadays to say that, but that's him. And he said, I used to work with a lot of offices in different offices. And I often find I'm the only person who is wearing dress in the room, even though there are other women. So we've been in this environment, like people rejecting a manager to promote because she's too friendly. What's wrong with being friendly? Why we can't nurturing people and encourage people? Because for me, that works for me. When I grown up from a very junior to now an experienced designer, the thing that works the most for me is encouragement, because it's a highly subjective job. I am creating something from nothing. And a lot of times I'm creating that based on people's opinions. And my work is judged by people's opinions, not some solid numbers, because a lot of time you can't prove what feels good, what looks good. It's just an intangible feeling. So that has been extremely difficult for me, because one opinion can just diminish all of the effort that I have been putting in. And then when the culture of encouraging, be kind, be friendly to each other is not encouraged in the work environment, it doesn't nourish creativity, because creating something new takes a lot of risk, takes a lot of courage. If the environment is not psychological safe, why would I want to take that risk? Because I might be punished later. Why would anyone want to be creative? And then in tech, especially these days, being creativity is almost the only way forward for this industry. So if explained in all directions, it makes sense to have a more friendly culture, to value the people's emotions, to value people's mental health, and make this work environment nurturing for creativity and encouraging people to be creative and taking risks. And so that's the female gender aspect. The Asian woman, I'm from China. I born and raised in China for 23 years, and now I have been UK for 8 years. So I started working in Chinese. That's my mother tongue. As a graphic designer, that's when I first started my job. Copy is something really important in my work. People always say a great graphic designer will understand the copy, refine the copy, not just add a pretty image next to it. So that has been my personal standard all the time because I'm aiming for greatness. But since the day I moved to UK, the first challenge is the nuances in copywriting start to become a code for me because I can understand the gist of it, but I can't refine it. It's not my mother tongue.
Right.
Oh my, and then in the other side, I judge myself for it because I want to be great and I want to be able to interpret that. But it has been so hard across two culture. For example, in advertisement, heavily when you write copy or when you decide what visual to use, it based on a generation's collective memory. So when people say, oh, what are the childhood like dentist advertisement all of you have seen? Well, every people in the room have one answer. I don't know that. I don't even know what they're talking about. And that feels really, really lonely. And when I'm working, there is always a native speaker, normally man, I don't know why, stand in front of me, between me and the client, say, oh, you're making spelling mistakes. Oh, you're making grammar mistakes. This doesn't even sound like a native. You should run everything through me before it sees anyone. I know it comes from probably a protective aspect, but also it feels very, like I don't feel like a full adult. I don't feel fully capable because of this level of barrier. And I'm working really, really hard on that by just not giving up on trying,
Yeah.
communicate with people and reaching out to people and not hiding behind the screen and completely give up the part of writing and copy to somebody who knows the language better. I accept changes, but I want to get involved so that I can learn. And I always try to crack a joke in English to just practice.
Yeah, and it's about people also understanding your differences, right? And being
Yes.
able, yeah, and being and that's having differences is a beautiful thing. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, your camera just
Yeah.
went there slightly, Rakhee. I said, oh no, but she's back. But hold that note because we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to go into a short commercial break. We have been speaking all things, all about our own experiences here on the Women's Hour with And Digital and the Power Hour, and we will be right back in a few moments. So please do not touch that dial. Please do not leave the screen. We will be right back in a moment.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम लिसनर्स, वेलकम। उम्मीद है आप ठीक होंगे इन दिनों में। आज हम बात करेंगे कोविड-19 वैक्सीन के बारे में। डॉक्टर ताहिर महमूद हैं। थैंक यू सो मच, आज आपने वक्त दिया हमें।
आपका भी बहुत शुक्रिया। दोनों वैक्सीन लगाने का मतलब ये है कि आप अपनी लाइफ फुल गुजार सकते हैं जैसे आप पहले गुजारते थे। आप दूसरे मुल्क में ट्रैवल कर सकते हैं और खासकर उन मुल्क में जहाँ पे क्वारंटीन की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी, पीसीआर टेस्ट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। आप क्लब्स में जा सकते हैं, म्यूजिकल इवेंट्स में जा सकते हैं और बड़े-बड़े प्रोग्राम्स में शिरकत कर सकते हैं जहाँ पे इंडोर में सितंबर के एंड में इजाज़त होगी कि वहाँ पे लोग इकट्ठे हो सकें। इसी तरह अगर आप NHS ऐप इस्तेमाल करते हैं, अगर आपके ग्रुप में कोई बंदा कोविड-19 पॉजिटिव हो गया है तो उस वक्त आपको NHS ऐप जब कांटेक्ट करेगा या पिंग करने की कोशिश करेगा, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप सेल्फ आइसोलेट करें। हमने अभी तक देखा है कि दोनों वैक्सीन लगाने के बाद लोगों में कोविड-19 की वजह से जो हॉस्पिटल का ख़तरा हो रहा था और वफ़ात हो रही थी, वो तकरीबन 90% कम हो गया है। इसका मतलब है कि कोविड-19 की वैक्सीनेशन बहुत ही इफ़ेक्टिव है। जी, बहुत ही ज़रूरी है कि हमारी ज़िंदगी में वालिदैन का असर रसूख वैसे ही बहुत ही मुस्बत रहा है। तो जितने भी वालिदैन मेरी बात सुन रहे हैं, आप कोशिश करें कि आपके घर में जितने भी बड़े हैं, आप बराए मेहरबानी उनको जिन्होंने वैक्सीन नहीं लगाई है, उनके लिए आप वैक्सीन का इंतज़ाम करें। उनको बोलें कि वो अपने लिए वैक्सीन बुक करें। वैक्सीन बुक करने के लिए आपको किसी इमिग्रेशन स्टेटस की ज़रूरत नहीं है, ना ही आपको NHS नंबर की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी। आप NHS UK की वेबसाइट पे भी जा सकते हैं, जैसे मैंने पहले बताया था, या आपके नियरेस्ट वॉक इन क्लिनिक जो है वहाँ पे वैक्सीन लगाने वाला है, उस पे भी जाके आप बुक कर सकते हैं या 119 पे भी कॉल करके बुक कर सकते हैं।
थैंक यू सो मच जो आपने इतनी ज़रूरी इन्फॉर्मेशन हमें दी है। जज़ाकल्लाह सुनने के लिए। अस्सलाम वालेकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
ये आयशा है। ये बहुत छोटी सी थी जब इसके वालिद का एक हादसे में इंतकाल हो गया। वो अपनी माँ और छोटे बहन भाइयों के साथ रहती है। आयशा जैसी लाखों बच्चियां जिंदगी की बुनियादी सहूलतों से बिल्कुल महरूम है। यही वजह है कि वो स्कूल भी नहीं जा सकती। मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन ने आपकी एहतियात और अपनी खिदमत दुनिया भर के यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों के लिए वक्फ कर दी है। एक यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चे का सहारा बनिए। आज ही अतिया कीजिए।
अभी कॉल मिलाएं 0300 3030 या हमारी वेबसाइट विजिट करें www.minhajwelfare.org.
Ahoy there, matey. So you want to be a pirate, do you? Well, guess what? You now can at Fairlock Country Park. Come and hire one of our fantastic new boats at the lake. Find us on the tube on the Central Line or drive down from East London. Fun for the whole family, har! You can row, pedal, or even try kayaking. We're open on weekends, all school holidays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Come on down and set sail at Fairlock Country Park.
With over 40 years' experience in the industry, Plachette Carpets is the place to go for all your carpets, laminates, linos, and wood flooring. We have an established network of suppliers, which means we can offer some of the best prices in town. We offer free estimates, free measurements, and now even free fitting. Call us now on 0208 472 8568 or visit us at 157 Plachette Road, Upton Park, London, E13 0QZ.
Let's connect with the Holy Quran. Minhaj Dawah Project distributes the Holy Quran in plain simple English for free. You can donate £3 and sponsor a Quran to a loved one, a neighbour, a colleague or a friend. We distribute Qurans totally free of charge across the whole UK, including in prisons. Please call us now to contribute on 0300 030 1951 or email us on dawah@minhajuk.org.
Taj Grill invites you to the world of Pakistani cuisine. With every dish prepared to perfection, why not try our sizzling mixed grill, our famous masala fish, or choose from our selection of freshly made curries and allow the Taj Grill experience to speak for itself. Visit us at 72 Ilford Lane or 508 Ilford High Road or call 0208 262 6476. We also offer catering for all your events. Call us for more information.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM, then visit www.revivefm.co.uk or contact our sales team now on 07944 565616. That's 07944 565616. Advertise with Revive FM.
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Hello, you are locked into Revive FM 94.0 on the Power Hour with your host today, myself, Louise Power. This show is about community matters, diversity and inclusion, a platform for women, leadership, entrepreneurship and inspirational stories. And today I am broadcasting the Women's Hour with And Digital and my guests today, Rakhee Paul and Stella Wang. Welcome back to the show.
Hi.
Hi. We was having such a great conversation just before the break, and we've been speaking to both Rakhee and Stella about their individual backstories, about their career progression into tech, about work-life balance and managing juggling work and home, and also inspiration about having families in the future just because of the COVID change and the inspiration that brought about that for Stella. So we were just having a conversation about our progression into tech. You was both speaking about your individual, and Rakhee gave us some great backstory about being pregnant and in her role and how she felt that shaped her career and the kind of support that she got and the different things that organizations can do. And then Stella, you were talking about your own experience and as a woman, as an Asian woman, and then you gave some context as well about your cultural differences and even within the type of work you do, which I think is very important because I think these are the things, especially within diversity and inclusion, or within just our own individual roles, we don't realize that sort of language and how, of course, that itself is very different for each individual about how they receive information and how they see things in the artistic side and in the creativity side. So thank you so much for that, because I think it's really important for people to recognize that it's not just the normal things that we all speak about every day, but actually within the actual content of the work itself as well. And yeah, so just delving a little bit more into career, into the, you know, work and home life balance, into, you know, our own experiences. I know, as for me personally, as a woman and as a woman of color, I feel like there's been two ceilings within my own journey, you know, as a woman and somebody of color, just in my experiences in general, when I've been, you know, working within the industry myself. And I just wanted to ask you about your own experiences with the other ceiling. And we've spoken about being a woman, but it's being a woman of color, and any experiences that you've had where you feel that you've learned from them, or where you feel that they've been different, or you feel like it may have been different because of, you know, who you are and where you come from. And yeah, if there's anything around, I know we did discuss it slightly. Rakhee told me some great things about cultural differences at home and some of the things you've implemented. So it would just be really good to just delve deeper into those conversations.
Yeah, so I guess for me, from a work standpoint, definitely women is definitely the first hurdle, and then women of color is definitely the second. I think things are changing in the right direction across the board, but it's slow, incredibly slow, like snail-paced slow. But thinking back to when I was actually much younger, there was nobody there. My people that I used to look up to as inspiration were actually people in my family, because those are the only people that I could actually relate to. You know, they're the only other brown people, and it's like, okay, they look like me, they can do it, they have struggles. But it also, as I grew up, I also realized that they only ever got to a certain extent, and then they were just saying, okay, I'm happy. For me personally, I was like, well, that can't do. You have to keep going, because what else can you do? And thinking about that, and bringing it back into home life, and culture and role models, I really want to set that up for my kids. And so Louise and I caught up last week and was saying that actually my husband's English, and we've got obviously our two children, and being mixed cultures, I try really hard to, you know, make sure that we're educating them on various different people's races, religions, cultural backgrounds, you know, disabilities, and everything that inclusion has to encompass, through books, and being like, we'll just go talk to people and see what's going on with them. You know, one of the mums at school walks with she often kind of has a mobility scooter, or she walks with a walking stick. Ask her why. She'll happily tell you. But some people are also afraid to ask the question and ask why. And it's about pushing those barriers, whether it's the first step of just being brave enough to go to somebody and ask them, whether it's, how did you get to that position? And let me just go message some random stranger and actually say, can you help me out? Recently, from a career standpoint, I've been looking for a mentor of such, someone that I can, you know, just use as a bit of sounding board, being like, what is it that I want to get out of my career and the direction I want to push it in? But I've been really passionate about trying to find a woman, and a woman of color, because I feel like that's someone that I could relate to a bit better. A working mum would be even better. I've managed to talk to wonderful women across the board, but a woman of color at a senior level, I found it very, very, very hard, and I still do. So for me to try and navigate that even now, I find a challenge. Therefore, I'm not shying away from it. I feel like my search has really just begun. But actually what also pushes me towards finding it more is because I know that I want to be that person for someone else.
Yeah. Why do you think we find it really difficult? It's just because there aren't enough women of color in senior positions. It's not that they aren't there, because they're there, but it's just in terms of, of course it's like you said, it's now space.
Yeah.
And we need to be at a faster pace. Yes, there is some movement, but it isn't fast enough. What about yourself, Stella?
I can definitely echo to that, like the second layer of glass feeling as a woman in color. When I just began my career, there's no one. There's rarely women in the high position like us in terms of a creative director. And the women in color I've never seen. I think recently I see one just from a TED Talk from a renowned design agency, but that's how rare it is. It's just, I'm not even thinking about it. I just know if I can find a woman, I'm already happy enough because they can understand all this people stuff and family stuff. And women in color, I just feel, yes, I hope it gets faster, but it's really, really rare. And that definitely have like I'm also a very I'm quite an open-minded people. So since I arrived UK 8 years ago, I decided I just don't want to only stay in the people of my own ethnicity group. I really want to open myself up and understand the diverse culture that London has to offer. And I did that. But also as a result, I just feel the cultural representation, the longer I am away from home, the more I'm like hungry of it. I want people to share my culture, to understand my culture in terms of just in day-to-day communication. If I type, there's a certain way when I translate my Chinese into my English, I speak in a certain way without body language, without facial language, which people from a different cultural background might really interpret that as rude. Like I got people writing me comments like behind me back and say it to my face that you've been incredibly rude after a text message, which I probably type it out with a smile on my face and without really knowing at all what's between the line people might get from it. And it's a learning from mistake thing, but also every single learning, especially when those sentence or feedback being taken into the consideration of my progression, that feel very powerless. I feel it's just it's a culture thing that like you interpret, of course, communication is two-way. It's not only on the receiver or the giver, but in the meantime, just consider there's 23 years of my life that's in the completely value and culture background. So, and also the language in translation can change a lot of nuances. Maybe consider that. Like you could interpret my words in a kinder way, but that just needs me to fight for it all the time. I need to be the one taking the initiation, like, hey, let's go out, grab a coffee, and let's get to know each other so that I'm not mean. And it's been challenging, and especially when soft skills, people skills are required heavier for higher position. And I have the same aspiration as Rakhee as well. Because of lack of representation of role model when I grown up, I want to be that one for the future ones of women in color or people in color, so that the whole work environment will be more embraced, more diverse. So yeah, that's the challenge. And
I can
that's
feel
also
another
my
show coming on. I can feel another show coming on. We're going to be speaking about mentorship. We're going to get mentees in. We're going to be speaking about representation. We're going to be telling our stories. Let's hold this space. I feel another show coming on, ladies. Isn't it interesting? Rakhee said that she was we always have to be proving ourselves. You're too friendly, right? And I mean, can I be a woman friendly and lead? And then you have Stella talking about the fact that it is in her nature to speak in a certain way. But yet because she is the minority in a situation, it is perceived in her body language or in the way that she writes as being rude. And that is, again, people not opening up themselves to doing some of the things that you mentioned, Stella, like having a coffee, like having a conversation, like when Stella mentioned earlier, going up and saying to somebody, you know, what the reason why they of the mobility they had, you know, outside the school, and congratulations, you're pregnant. Just really being open and accepting that we are all very different, and the status quo for what you're used to is not there's not a right way or wrong way just because it's all that you know. Actually, there is so much more beauty and so much more understanding in the world that we need to, in order to grow, in order to be diverse, in order to be accepting, in order to be a team, in order to do our roles and do our jobs at work, and be a real team player. And I just think so much interesting things that you're both saying that really highlight what I wanted to get out of today's conversation. And yeah, I just, you know, where you spoke about representation and mentoring, do you both feel, I mean, from my point of view, I think that there are women of color that feel perhaps that there's no acceptance in those roles because they don't see representation. They know there's maybe a confidence thing in terms of, I can't see myself there. Would I be accepted into those roles? Actually, maybe, you know, they're thinking, I'm really creative, but how do I access the network of people? How do I speak to the right people? You know, and you know, as much as there is learning about for us, and you know, yes, we're getting this now space is actually, you know, it is quite a sad situation, isn't it? That there are so many people perhaps that would like to be in both of your positions, are more than capable, but yet, for whatever the reason, there's all these barriers that they've told themselves because of all the biases and the discrimination of the past. So yeah. Sorry, Rakhee was going to say something. I can see you was going to say something.
No, I agree. I think it is the unknown, and that also brings a level of uncertainty and nervousness just around thinking about, where do I even start? Who do I talk to? Will someone even talk to me? Because you know, and who is that person? How do I approach that conversation? All those questions come flying into your mind, and because you don't have anyone that you feel like you can actually relate to, it makes it 10 times harder, really. So
Yeah.
representation is so important.
Yeah. And you spoke about having a diverse experience for your children. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because you spoke about when you and I was on the phone about your culture, and then of course your husband being English. And do you feel like that having that mix at home has been a benefit to them in society, in school, and amongst other children? Do you think that having that experience has been, you know, beneficial in their development, and as well?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like just because they are the way they are, you know, and obviously, well, I say obviously, my background is from India in terms of my cultural background. My parents were actually born in Africa. My grandparents are from India, and so forth. I was born in the UK. I grew up in Africa. I spent a lot of time there growing up, and a lot of my family are still there. The kids, when they see people, well, actually, both my kids, my older one, he's actually got my skin tone, takes very much after his father, but has my skin tone. And my daughter has my husband's skin tone. So just actually as a household and as a family, we all look very different.
Yeah.
I think it's helped in a way that actually, and they call it out, you know, my son will tell his sister, being like, well, because you're white, you know, I'll colour you in this colour, and I'm brown, so I'll colour myself in brown. And I'm like, okay, cool. But they state it as a matter of fact. I quite like that actually they feel open and comfortable talking about people's skin colour, because I think the offensive thing is when you talk about people's skin colour in a derogatory way, because actually that's not nice. You can't hold someone back because they are of a certain skin colour or a religion or a background, or they've had this sort of upbringing. And, you know, they always turn around and they're like, we both have 10 fingers, we have 10 toes, so what does it matter? and it's fine, and then they just crack on. And I love that about it. But it is so important to me to teach them about the different religion, the different cultures. You know, I've got, just in our household we've got two, but actually within my wider family, they're married into different cultures, and people celebrate all sorts of different festivals, which actually mean that we celebrate everything in our house. So we'll actually light Hanukkah candles, we'll do Christmas, we'll do Diwali, and everything kind of in between, because actually that's important in my family, and within my wider and extended family. I know, you know, my cousins, they all celebrate Chinese New Year, and actually it's just really lovely. And it's about, I think the biggest thing is around education. It's not just educating the younger generations, but it's also educating parents on how to approach these conversations. Because I think sometimes, you know, if your child, or if you say something without meaning to, you end up just brushing it aside, when actually it's like, no, just talk about it, it's fine, but approach it head on rather than sweep it under the carpet, because that's not teaching anyone, and that's not leading by an example, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you so much. And what about yourself, Stella? If there was something that, you know, perhaps, you know, there's a woman of color listening to this show, or within your organization, or somebody thinking about, you know, wanting to get into the world of tech, you know, is there anything maybe that you would like to say in terms of just your own experience, and maybe some of the things that they may want to be thinking about, as you know, as encouragement, or even things that you think that, you know, organizations should be thinking about, maybe things that we haven't covered today already?
I think definitely, I think Rakhee also mentioned a little bit, it's just do not hide away from the subject, just talk about it. And this is something like when I used to do quite a lot of illustration works, I used to do it for a company who does change management. So it kind of, D&I and diversity has been constantly become my commission. I need to draw so many things for huge organizations to UK to show they use that as a material to educate their employee about race, about different culture. And sometimes because I keep drawing it and then I keep getting the same brief. So one day I start to get an idea of a bit of social experiment. Because every time at the beginning when I drew, when I download and when I find some stock images I could use, I just didn't think much. I lay out a lot of those people are just one skin tone on the canvas. And people start to ask me, can you add black people there? Can you add yellow people? Can you add a different skin tone on there? And I learned after another. One day I just came up with this idea. I'm gonna do an experiment. So I put every single skin tone on my canvas except white. I just want to see what feedback I got. And then the first round of feedback I got, the people who briefed me are actually the manager who worked on this. She's really, really nice lady. She is white. So first round of feedback, she was like, can we make it a more age diverse? Let's add some old people. Let's add some people with gray hair. I'm like, sure. So I added, I sent it back. And the next round, she come back, can we make it a bit more diverse? Like, can we put people on wheelchair and then people with disabilities? I'm like, sure, I did that. I'm just wondering, when are you gonna mention to me your own race? And finally, on fourth round, she was like, now we have everyone. Can we add some actually people with lighter skin tones with maybe red hair, brown hair, and blonde hair, which was her. I'm like, sure, I'm waiting for that. I'm gonna do it for you, but this has been so entertaining. It's like, it's uncomfortable to ask for your own right. Like, hey, I want my race to be represented here, but we as a minority need to actively doing that all the time. And sometimes this can be read as aggressive, as rude. But if I switch the paradigm as a people who normally never been ignored,
Yeah.
It took them very long to like, okay, please, can I have my race out there too? So yeah, it has been an interesting piece that I've done, and the lesson I've learned from that is just asking for your right. It's actually not that easy, and just be brave and do it.
That is so interesting, isn't it? And actually, on the, like you were saying, on the flip side of things, for the likes of myself, Stella, and Rakhee, we're used to not seeing ourselves represented, so much so that we don't say anything most of the time, right? So you doing that experiment and you just thinking about what that, I think that's very interesting, just to see, because we're just used to it. It shouldn't be like that, but we kind of just get on with it, don't we? It's just sort of like every day. And I've really enjoyed this so much that I think I'm definitely going to have you both back on again. It's been really good. I know we're running out of time, but I just want you to know that I've really enjoyed this conversation. I was just going through my notes and just seeing if there was anything that we may have missed. We've only got just a minute or two left, but is there anything else that you think you'd like to add? Well, I want to ask you both one question. What would you say to your younger self? And we've got like sort of 30 seconds each.
Mine would just be continue to push through. It doesn't matter who's there, it's what you can do.
I love that.
Mine was less philosophical. It's just don't worry about tattoos, as I've been predicted by so many back then adults. I'm not gonna get a husband. I'm not gonna get a job because of my tattoos. But these are not true. Get a tattoo.
I just saw yours. Whoa! I love Ant.
Actually, you're the only one believe that's a real tattoo.
Oh. It's cosmetic. I thought it was real. You played a trick on me. You're the lady.
Advertisement.
You're the lady full of tricks. I've been tricked by you now, Stella. Honestly, cheeks are hurting just because I'm smiling so much, and it's just been an absolute pleasure to have you both here today and just bring in both of your wonderful stories, wonderful feedback, so much inspiration, so many golden nuggets. So many people are going to be inspired. I'm saying it right to the camera. My camera's been positioned in the wrong place today, but it hasn't mattered because we've got through the show and it has been absolutely fantastic. And I just want to say thank you to you both, and thank you to And for coming together with me to facilitate the Women's Hour. And I would certainly love to invite you both back again another time. So from me, I'm signing out, and yeah, we'll see you again soon. And I'm sure everybody's just found it. We've had a lot of people on today. We've got applause in the background. We've got, was great listening to your experiences. Thank you for sharing. Someone saying woo. So it's been brilliant. Have a fantastic rest of the week, ladies, and I will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you ever so much.